Hi guys, Happy New Year. I hope 2021 was an amazing year for you, and I hope that 2022 is going to be even better. I'm delighted I've actually managed to get quite a few new followers over the last few weeks, so thank you so much if you're a new subscriber to my channel. I'm absolutely delighted that you're joining us, and if you're not a subscriber or you haven't watched before, then welcome. I hope that I can offer some useful advice. So I took a little bit of time out of YouTube at the end of last year because I've got a fantastic new project on the cards which I'll tell you about a little bit later on, but I'm back into it now, so if you hit the subscribe button and click the bell as well, then you will be notified every time I post a new video. So yeah, let's get straight into it. I'm going to do something around goal setting, and the reason this is a bit more personal is because it's actually something that I really struggled with. I've always felt like I've got lots of ideas, lots of ambition, lots of things that I want to achieve in my life, but for quite a long time I felt frustrated that I wasn't really getting to where I wanted to go. And I think some of that was my mindset. I didn't feel I was achieving things when actually I was. So yeah, I found I was spending a lot of my time focusing on the things that weren't important as opposed to the things that were. And yeah, I decided that this wasn't going to be the case any longer. So at the beginning of last year, I set myself quite a clear goal planning exercise. And I set myself up with a Google Sheet, which I will share with you. So if you have a little look down in the description below, you can download it for yourself and make a copy. And yeah, basically I set about planning my life for 2021. And you know, there's things that could have gone better. There's certainly things that could have gone a lot worse. I'm pretty confident in saying the most successful year I've had to date. And I hope that if I follow the same strategy this year, then things will just continue to get better and better and better. I think if I continue to follow this system, that will continue to be the case. So I thought, you know what, I really want to share this with you guys because it's really helped me and I think it will help you too. So I'm just going to go through how I use my planning sheet, what I do, and I'm going to take you through it step by step. You've got access to the sheet yourself, so you can do this exercise yourself. And I'd really appreciate your feedback. This is something that I made up out of my own mind. I haven't got this from anywhere else. It was just stuff that worked for me, and I'd love to know if it works for you too. So yeah, before I go any further, I'm Sarah, I'm founder of the Fastnet agency. We help ambitious up-and-coming e-commerce brands to scale their business. We work with a number of great brands that we absolutely love working with, and we spent our time over the last few years really working out fantastic systems to ensure that small brands can become big brands fast, and that's what I aim to share with you in these videos. Okay, so step one. Now, as I said, there was kind of two things that I felt kind of frustrated about. The first thing I felt frustrated about was the fact that I felt I wasn't achieving enough. And actually, the best way to really accurately assess in a non-emotional way whether or not you're achieving anything is to plot what you have achieved or haven't achieved. Simple, really, isn't it? So the first part of this planning spreadsheet is to look at where you've come from over the last 3 years. So I want you to plot out all of the basic stats for your business for the 3 years up to the end of 2021, looking at from January to December. Let's just keep this simple. So looking at what you've achieved over the last 3 years is really, really important. Now you'll probably find, I know I did, that actually when I looked at these stats, I was like, you know what, I am making progress here. You know, things are happening, might not be happening at the pace I want it to happen, but things are improving. So it's a really good way of actually improving your mindset to say, you know what, we are making progress. But it's also a good way of assessing actually how much progress are you making and how much do you want to accelerate that by? Because I think that allows you to make realistic goals. Now, if you have grown your business by 20% over the last year, then I think it's a realistic goal to say, well, actually, maybe we'll do 25-30% if I've now got a new member of staff on board, for example. But to sit there with no kind of reference point as to where you've been and suddenly say, I'm going to grow my business by 75%, well, if you've got a good plan of action, that might be achievable. But actually, looking back will give you a realistic idea of what you can expect both of yourself and of your business. Now, I've included all the things that I find relevant in my business to plot out. It might be that you want to add some extra lines to this for things that you find relevant for yourself. So feel free to do that and go through and plot out the last 3 years. So the next thing I want you to do is underneath this, you will find that there's some boxes for you to note down the less tangible aspects of what you've achieved over the last 3 years. Maybe you've gone backwards over this last year. Maybe you've made a loss because of the pandemic. Maybe something has happened which has set you back, which means that the figures don't accurately represent what you actually have achieved in your life. But do you know what? If you've managed to come through a global pandemic and you still have a business and you're still employing people, or you're still employing yourself and you still have clients, then that in itself is an achievement. I think the idea of this is that the figures give you statistical information that help you to make decisions, but the stuff underneath those figures, the stuff that you write down about yourself, is the stuff that puts all of that into context. And also write down your setbacks so you can be realistic about what's happened that maybe has meant that you haven't achieved your goals. Try and make this as detailed as possible. You know, it can be like your diary. Nobody else needs to see this. This is about you and making sure that you've got a really good understanding of where you're going. Now, underneath these two boxes, I want to start getting into the nitty-gritty. This is about what you want to achieve from your life this year. So if we are sat here having this conversation in 2023, having gone through all of 2022 and you've achieved all of the things that you want to achieve, I want you to describe to me what that looks and feels like. This is actually a bit more about you. Why are you doing this? Because this will be what keeps you going when things get tough. So if we're having this conversation this time next year, I want you to write down how you feel to have achieved that and what that means for you and your life. So it might be that, you know, you've taken on 2 new members of staff and that was tough because you had to train them up and it added to your workload. But now you have the freedom to go on holiday and to spend more time with your family and to work a 9 to 5 rather than having to work every hour that God sends. So you've gone through that tough period, but now this is what you've got at the end of it, and this is how that feels for you as an individual. So the last column on this first sheet of the spreadsheet is for 2022. Now, we obviously don't know what these figures are going to be for 2022 yet, but I want you to think about what you would like them to be at the end of it. There's all the kind of basics there, and again, you can add to it if there's something particularly relevant to you, but it's, you know, what sort of turnover are you going to have? What sort of expenditure are you going to have? Therefore, what sort of profit margins are you going to have? You know, how are you looking to grow? Are you going to be growing your email list? Are you going to be growing your social following? You know, are you going to be looking to do incremental improvements like improving your website conversion rates so you've got more money coming through your website for the same amount of advertising spend? Are you going to be looking at improving your customer retention rate so that, you know, you're kind of keeping and retaining those customers and getting more value out of them? You know, there's all sorts of things that you can put here, but by looking back over the last 3 years, you can judge where you've come from and how that's grown. And now I want you to set some new goals for 2022. So these are your final end of the year. This is what I'm going to achieve goals. And I want you to put that in that final column. And that's it for the first sheet of this spreadsheet. So once you've done that, we're going to move on to sheet 2. So sheet 2, you'll notice that there is a calendar. And the thing that I really like about this is that we think that a year is a really long period of time until we start plotting it on a calendar, month by month. And then you realise that the year is really bloody short and you've got a lot to do in order to achieve everything you want to achieve in a year. So this overview calendar is all about making sure that you've got all of those kind of key milestones, those key dates, those key deadlines written down in advance so you know what's coming so that you can plan backwards. And I think this is a really important part of this whole planning process, because having this end goal, I want to grow my social following by 10,000 followers by the end of 2022, for example, that feels like a long way off and it feels like a big figure, and you can sort of sit there pootling away about it until October and suddenly think, oh my God, I've got like nowhere near the amount of social followers that I wanted to have, and you suddenly have to put in like a real lion's effort at the end of the year and you don't meet your goal. So by plotting over the year, we start to actually realize that in order to get 10,000 followers by the end of the year, we need to have this amount of followers by the end of January and by the end of February and then the end of March. So you've got these incremental goals throughout the year, which means that you are constantly motivated, you're constantly pushing. So this is something tangible that is only a few weeks away. This is why this part of the planning process is so important. So the easiest way to do this, if you're a bit lost and you think, oh God, where do I start, is to actually start with the quarters. So if you want to achieve all of this by the end of the 12 months, where does that mean you've got to be after 9 months and after 6 months and after 3 months? And that'll give you like a bit of a kind of a milestone kind of goal. And then if you need to, you can break that down further. So, okay, well, if I need this after 3 months, what realistically would I need to achieve in month 1 and month 2? Now, bear in mind that things like, for example, social followings are not going to be like an even distribution out the year. Followers breeds followers. So, you know, the amount of followers you would expect to gain when you've got 1,000 followers is different to the amount of followers you would expect to gain monthly if you had like 10,000 followers. So bear in mind that, you know, this is not necessarily an even kind of distribution of achievement throughout the year. But it's worth you just thinking about that and bearing that in mind and setting yourself at least quarterly, if not monthly, goals for each of these elements within your business. So looking at those, I now want you in the next part of this spreadsheet to think about, what do I need to have in place in order to do this? So this example of growing your social following by 10,000 followers, for example, I don't know what your social following is going to be about necessarily, but say you want that to be about, a kind of personal influencer. Well, you'll need to have decent photos. You maybe need to get some video equipment in place. Maybe you'll need partway through the year somebody to help you with that part-time. So I want you to go through and plot out all of these things that you are going to need throughout the year in order to achieve that. And bear in mind that you won't necessarily need it when it happens. So if it is happening in September, you might well need to start thinking and buying or employing people a month, 2 months before that. Okay, if it's new equipment, you might need a month before that to get used to using it. If it's a new role that you'll need in September, chances are you're going to have to employ them a month before to train them up and get them into that situation. So bear in mind that the goal that you've set doesn't necessarily translate in the same way to the thing that you need to achieve that goal. It needs to come forward of that. And that is why planning this out in advance is so important, because it means that you are ready for the next stage of your journey. So the next line of this year planner is your downtime. And this is really important because this is something that I never really took seriously. It meant that I felt that holidays, as much as I enjoyed them, were an inconvenient break in my business. Basically, it was a pain. I had to arrange cover, projects got put on hold, I had a dip in my income. It meant that I actually found holidays quite stressful, really, and I used to put off having them. And then I realised that actually I am so much more productive if I give myself time off, proper time off. I don't have to worry about things in my absence. And the only way to have proper time off is to plan it and to plan your business around it if you're a business owner. Now, in an ideal world, I know these things don't always pan out, I recommend taking at least a few days off, if not a week, once a quarter. It might be that this is something you aspire towards and you work towards over a period of time. I know it's not easy starting up a small business and doing this, but at least planning a decent amount of time off, a long weekend, something like that once a quarter, will allow you to reset and refocus on what you're doing. And as I say, the only way you'll achieve this is if you plan it in advance. So I want you to plot in roughly these times off now within your calendar, and that is that next row down in order for you to do that. And then I want you to look at the row up, which involves what you need in order to achieve that, and see if you need to move it. If you need to take time off in July, you've got a big thing coming up in September and you need to employ somebody, maybe you need to shift them to employing them in June. So you've got them up and running ready for your time off. And I really advise you do this. Don't skip over this step because you will really thank me at the end of the year. And now you've done all the hard work, it's time to have some fun. This is where we just start dreaming. And I want this to be kind of fairly realistic dreams, but this is where we really start to visualize all of this, because what is the point? What is the point in doing all of this? You've just plotted out a year's worth of hard graft. What on earth is the point in doing that unless we get something at the end of it which is worthwhile? So the last sheet in this Google document is a mood board. What I'd like you to do in this stage is to put images into each of these little fields on your sheet that represents what you've achieved over that time and how your life looks. So it might be something material, and there's nothing wrong with material things. That's why we work for hard and earn money. Maybe you've got that new car you've always wanted, or the house you wanted to buy, or the new apartment that you've always aspired to. Put those material things in there, because you know what? We all need a treat. We all need to keep going for a certain reason. It could also be actually the way in which you live your life. Maybe you go on more holidays now, so we've got lovely images of you going on holidays. It could be that you're spending more time with your family, in which case put some family images in there. You're spending more time with your kids because you've set yourself up in a way that means you've now got a team on board, which means you don't have to work so hard. Everybody's goals are going to be different, and everybody's going to have a different vision of what their life is going to be like. But I want you to put this mood board together. And the final thing I want to emphasize about this is that bear in mind that all of this is movable. And this is something that I'd really like you to refer back to and adjust as the year goes on, because we never know. We don't know what's going to happen in our life. We certainly didn't know that we're going to have a global pandemic, and that readjusted everything. So it would be really lovely if you can look back at this over the year, and if something comes in, like maybe you got this fantastic opportunity that you never realized that you were going to get, and that completely elevates your goals for the year, in which case go back, revise this, reset your goals and move forward. It might be that something happens out of the blue, which means that actually you scale back your goals a bit. There's nothing wrong with that either. Go back, go in there, revise it. But I want you to use this as a working document, and this is why, in my opinion, this is so much better than a planner or something that you write down once and then you never ever revise. So use this and make sure you use it as the tool that it's designed to be. So you might remember at the beginning of this video, I said that I'd taken a little bit of time out of YouTube to work on a new project. So I'm really excited to announce that I've launched my e-commerce Accelerator program. So this is a short course. It's 7 lessons. It's a £45 price tag, so it's really not a lot of money, but it is a hell of a lot of value. I've really tried to pack into this everything that I've learnt in terms of structuring campaigns, marketing campaigns for e-commerce brands, and to put that structure into this course. So yeah, I set up this course because I've had quite a lot of interest recently in my YouTube channel, and I've had a lot of people asking questions about how they do X, Y, and Z for their e-commerce brands. And I really wanted to show you the method that I've set up and that my team here at the Fastnet agency use all of the time for growing our e-commerce client brands. And so yeah, the course is available to download. I'll pop a little link below so that you've got access to that. As I say, £45, not a big investment. So if that's of interest to you, links below, and yeah, let me know if you've got any questions. So that's it. I really hope this is helpful to you. I'm sure this is something that I'm going to develop and evolve over the years. I don't think this is the final version of this at all. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, actually. So it might be that in a year's time I sit here and I show you the slightly updated version of this that's come about by experience. But for the minute, this is the best thing I've found in terms of planning my life and my business and relating personal goals to business goals. But of course, if you set yourself these goals for the year, you know, you're going to have to make sure that you have the ability and the knowledge to fulfill those. So please take a look at some of my other videos as well. I've done great videos on, you know, how to plan out your content, for example, using content pillars. So take a little look at that if you're looking to increase your social following this year. I've done another video on ads planning that you might find really useful in terms of scaling your business and getting new customers through the door. So take a look at those if you think that will help you achieve these goals for the year. But I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I wish you a fantastic 2022.